It's all over, but for the crying on everybody's pillow. Hi, I'm Brian Brake. This is Breaking Down Security. Ms.Berlin, Mr. Betcher's with us this week.
Hello. Who are you making cry?
The people who did not necessarily... Go ahead.
People who didn't participate, or when the... I would say more participate. If you failed to participate, you're probably crying that you missed it.
Right. Yeah, so our Derbycon Ticket CTF, which we actually expected to go until like this Friday, which is the 31st of August. One of the people actually got all the flags like yesterday morning.
So how many days is that? It started Sunday? Did it start
Sunday morning.
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday morning. So it took him a little over, 2.5 days to get all of them. So I guess that's not bad. I was thinking it was hard.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Ms.Berlin made some challenges. Mr. Betcher made some challenges. I made a couple of challenges. Tyler Hudak made some challenges. He's also going to be teaching at Derbycon, reverse engineering and debugging stuff and malware detection stuff. And Matt Domko made some challenges, and he was also our IT admin and infrastructure guy, of which he did a good job of making challenges.
Aww.
I feel bad for him because I don't think he expected. We did not plan for capacity. We did not do capacity planning at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we stuck the CTF
Broke
machine.
That cardinal rule.
Right. So we stuck the beefy servers on a couple of Raspberry Pis, and 5 people brought it down, I think. So, and I think some IPs were getting blacklisted. So there was a couple of times where he had to bring down some of the servers that actually had challenges on them, and I think he took those down. The final straw, I guess, we gotten all the flags, and I was like, we need to kill it because we've already got people who can't get back into stuff. And what was that, about Monday? I realized that if people were actually getting blacklisted when they were working on these challenges at work, they could conceivably blacklist their company's IP addresses, which would kind of be bad, not being able to access
There's
AWS.
a lot of stuff on Amazon.
There's a few things. There's a few things on Amazon. People might, it's a small mom and pop, cloud provider that, some people...
I wonder, do they block, AWS wide? Like all the buckets and all the locations, or is it just like you can't now access this server?
I don't know. I asked the question how long they block the IP addresses, and somebody put up the forever meme from the Sandlot. So I'm not sure. But they do tell you when you're pen testing and you get permission from Amazon to pen test, if there's certain specific instance types, you're not supposed to pen test those at all. We'll definitely look into having a beefier server next year. We'll actually pay for servers next year. But yeah, we appreciate Matt for going above and beyond. The scoreboard was great. I actually enjoyed watching it and submitting the challenges.
Yeah, my favorite part was I think it was the winner or second place or somebody actually reversed the MD5 hashes for some of our flags.
Yeah, that was the winner.
That made me happy because I would just go to like an MD5 creator and type in some words, and that would be my flag.
Right.
So it was cool that he thought to reverse those. Yeah,
I did some of we had some false flags on Twitter, so there were, and if you were listening to last week's show, you heard several Twitter accounts on there. One of them was at CascadiaSec, which is one that I set up a long time ago for my LLC that I have. That's where the flag actually was. We mentioned Slutty Carrot. We mentioned all of the show's Twitter handles, and the flag description was Twitter handle you heard on the show, which probably was overly simple, but several people did find that one, thankfully. So I was worried more about that one than my own PCAP one that I created. So, and everyone seemed to like Mr. Betcher's challenge.
Is that right?
Yeah. So maybe you could explain to us how you solved that one, because I couldn't even know where to begin.
Well, I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to create the challenge. So I'm a programmer. So I just wrote a program that actually takes the binary representation of each ASCII and knots it.
Okay.
So it changes ones to zeros and zeros to ones. So it's a simple encoding. And then I could do whatever I wanted. So I just entered the number of bytes that I wanted to encode in a file. So if I wanted to create a file that's 500 bytes and then encode the first 200, I got the idea from a piece of malware that I saw that was really fast, and it would encrypt your entire box in, I don't know, less than a minute, something like that, or 30 seconds. And so when I started looking into the files, it had only encrypted the first, 1K. I think it was exactly 1 kilobyte of every file it would encrypt.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay, that's pretty clever. You just screw up the first part of it. Maybe it's really important stuff, but if you have a large data file, you can recover most of your data there.
Right.
But most people would look at that and say, "Oh, crap, it's all encrypted." So that's where I got the idea from actual ransomware.
Yeah. The first 1K is what? File type, file headers, inode information, and then the actual contents of the file itself are after a certain amount. Now, obviously, if the file is less than 1K in size, you're going to encrypt the whole file. But for the larger Word files or PPTs or work type files, you could probably have opened up the encrypted files and pulled out necessary bits and then added them to like a skeleton PPT file and maybe recovered some of your data, I would imagine, right?
Potentially, yes. For those kind of files, they're binary files, so it would be pretty hard.
Right.
But the file I created was a CSV, and I made it out to be a CSV to give people a little bit of a hint, like, okay, there's commas in there. There's got to be commas.
Right.
And so that's how I did it. I wrote a program, and I quote, I'm using air quotes, encrypted it, and then decrypted it by running the same program again on the first 200 bytes or whatever I had set, and it ended up working. So I created the real file and used the program on that, and that's how it worked.
Cool.
So you should have been able to, especially with the hint I gave on the last podcast, look at the file in binary and figure out, well, okay, wait a minute. They only encrypted the first so and so many characters, and it looks like the rest is good. So with those hints, you should be able to figure out through trial and error what was going on.
Right. So there wasn't anything special in the challenge.txt you gave me, right? It was just basically set up like you need to be able to access this file. There was nothing special in that?
Nothing special in the actual question.
Okay.
Right.
Well, the reason I was asking was I could probably put a link to the passwords.supercrypto if people wanted to attempt to, crack that outside of the CTF, just, for proof of concept to see how it works.
On your own, just flip the bits and then open it back up.
Yeah.
I tried to find a binary editor, like a GUI, and I couldn't find a good one. They're all hex editors.
Right.
So it's not as easy to just read the hex and say, oh, it's an 8 in hex is really whatever it is.
Right. So Ms.Berlin, how about you? Would you had challenges based on the noble potato?
All of mine were pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there? So you've got a couple of files here in the Derbycon challenge folder too. Are there any? Can I put links to those in the show notes as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't mind asking?
Do you want me to tell people how to do them, or?
Well, that might be helpful. I mean, we just walked through some of Mr. Betcher's, so.
I can't remember which one is which.
Oh.
But I think the first one. Yeah. Okay, I do know. So the first one, which is potato one, is a zip file. All right. So it doesn't say it's a zip file, but you have to like use the file command and figure out what type of file it is.
Okay. So potato.file, the one okay. Potato.file. Okay.
Yep. It's an actual zip file. So you can change the extension and it'll turn back into a zip that you can uncompress.
Okay.
And then you'll find it's like 6 or 7 pictures of potatoes.
That's disturbing.
And in one of the potato pictures, the flag is hidden in the metadata.
Okay.
Yeah, or EXIF data.
And then there's a taters.zip.
Yep, taters.zip is a zip text file. Does it say zip or is it just taters?
It says taters.zip.
Oh, it's not supposed to have a file extension. You were supposed to have to use I kind of wanted to compound it. Like if you learn something from the first challenge, you would have to also use that on the next one. So I wanted people to have to use file on that as well.
Yeah.
Or you know what? I might have actually changed it. It might not actually be a zip file. It might just be a text file or something like that.
Okay.
I can't remember. It was a while ago.
All right.
But that one's really just this giant long text document. I searched for file type equals text on Google and then search for potatoes. Okay. So anything that I found that was a text file in potatoes, I put in one giant text file and the flag is in there. But it's not the correct format or whatever. So you have to use regex or whatever to try and find an MD5 hash.
Okay.
And then the third one is a PCAP file. And that is just on my lab network. I was just capturing packets. I think it was from a Kali box, maybe. Just doing random stuff and then web browsing. And I browsed to a potato website and put the flag in the HTTP URL. So you actually see the URL in the packet capture.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Well,
so they're all fairly easy. But I didn't want to make, I just always assume everybody else's challenges are going to be way harder than mine. And I know some of the simple stuff I've learned on some of my first CTFs that I had done.
Right.
And I wanted to incorporate some of that.
That's nice. That's cool. Yeah, I did 2 challenges. The Twitter one, of course, which was fairly rudimentary. It was just, I actually had that flag setting up since 1st of July because I was like, well, that's the one I'm going to be able to do. The other one I did was also a PCAP challenge. And, it's one of those things I've gone to Sans Net Wars and whatever and went through those. And there were some level 2 challenges on look through the PCAP and find the flag for this thing. And I was like, oh, well, I want to be able to do something like that too. So
yeah,
I started up 5 VMs on my MacBook, all Alpine Linux because they're really small footprint and resource not intensive. And I installed Netcat and set up the listener so that when people would, when somebody would run Nmap on it, they would get Brony poetry or something like that. So sometimes if you scrolled down through the PCAP, you would find Brony poetry for My Little Pony stuff and other things. So I had each VM had different ports and each one pointed so that when it got tickled by Nmap or by somebody, visiting it, like I was, somebody interrogating a network, they would get some of the text file. And on one of the VMs, I set up port 6666, which you can go in and look at the PCAP on that. If you look for port 6666 in the 10 meg, zipped down PCAP file, you can find the flag. Now, that one was, I thought fairly easy, but there were some people that didn't get that one either. So I don't know if maybe I made that one too hard. After I knew what to look for, because I had done it back in July as well, because I was overly preparing for this. It actually took me a few minutes to find my own flag and my own PCAP. One of the things I found was easy was setting the length. If you set the length up on top, it was only looking for certain things. So like the largest packet, I think, was some brony poetry or something like that. Don't ask me why
I love that it's brony poetry.
It's some kind of brony fanfic or something. I don't know, but and if you scroll down through, eventually you find port 6666, but it's not like one of the top 15 or 20 packets. So I actually had to do some searching for it. Later on, I found out you could just search for flag or any iteration of the word flag, and it would show you the packets that it had in there. But you had to follow TCP stream to be able to actually reconstitute the stream to be able to recreate the flag itself. So it wasn't like you could just click on a specific packet and get the answer. So I actually learned something about PCAP that I didn't know before, so that was cool. Next year, I'm already thinking about ideas on what to do. Some vulnerable VMs or something like that, just to learn various tools and stuff. So I'm already starting to think about next year, which is, I guess, what a lot of CTF builders do. So yes, thank you, Mr. Betcher. I see that you're highlighting our winners. So our winner, of course, on Twitter, if you want to follow him on Twitter, his handle is gig Staggart, Staggart, gig Staggart. The second one is actually one of our Slackers, Ohai_ninja. He's on our Slack with us. And the third one was Sodak Hib, SODAKHIB. And so I gave prizes to first, second, and third place. So the winner, of course, got the Derbycon ticket. The second place got a set of basic practice locks, which I found out his 12-year-old daughter is going to love those, and a set of lock picks. So those are already been ordered from the Tool website and are on their way. And Sodak Hib also got a set of he just got a set of lockpicks and some stickers that I mailed out this morning. I did a good job. I actually used the mail. So
hopefully he doesn't live in Tennessee because they're illegal there.
Stickers?
No.
Yes, it's a recent ban. It's just
yes, stickers with pictures of
only assault stickers.
Assault stickers. Okay.
Assault stickers are illegal, and
first straws and now stickers. Damn. Yeah, no, I don't believe he lives in. I think he might live in Michigan, Minnesota, something like that. So
with an M.
Yeah. No, it is Minnesota because I almost had his entire mailing address before he supplied me with the the mail address. So that was cool. Thank you, OSINT. Anyway, so yeah, I was on Pipple, I was on Spokio, I was doing name check, I was doing all that stuff. I found out his town, I found out his name, I found out where he works, his wife's name, his children's names. I was like, okay, this is getting a little creepy. I just need an address. And I have his phone number, and I was like, okay, I just need a freaking address. And then he replied back on Twitter. I was like, thank you. I didn't want to have to crawl up in this guy's, life. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like a dog with the bone. Once I can't let it go. So, but yeah, I was, we'll see if we can get Tyler maybe to do some blogging or do a blog on his challenges. They were way more complicated than ours. I think there were some, debugging and stuff that he did, and we can actually get Matt to talk about his. Oh, you know what? I'm letting one of the most important people. Dave did a bunch of trivia. Dave Sybuck, our moderator.
Oh yeah,
whole lot of trivia. Got Dave, Mr. Kennedy involved, and the organizers of Derby, because all of his trivia was based on past Derbycons, like what was the first keynote, what was in the Lost and Found, what was the first prizes given out for events at that, and a lot of people enjoyed that. It was very enjoyable. A lot of people got to walk down memory lane, however fuzzy it might have been during Derbycons 1, 2, and 3 and all those. So, Dave did a fantastic job getting all that information and going through all of Iron Geek's videos to find that information. So that was fantastic. So, bully for him. We're going to enjoy seeing him at Derbycon this year. Both Daves, Dave Kennedy and Dave Cybuck. All right, so we've talked enough about our challenges. We'll give a quick update on some of the Derbycon stuff at the end, but we wanted to discuss a little bit about the topic we were supposed to talk about last week, but we ended up not getting to it, and that was called Windows Event Forwarding.
Yes.
So I have never used this. It's obviously fairly self-defining. It's kind of in the name. What does it do?
Right.
It's, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. No, if you want. So I just recently set it up again. And you can actually, as opposed to taking all of your endpoints or picking and choosing endpoints and, installing an agent to forward like OSEC or NXLog or Graylog or whatever, and using that to forward log somewhere, you can push out settings with the GPO into Windows, and it will forward all of those endpoint logs to this Windows event collector.
Nice.
And they'll just end up on that server just like a regular Windows event log, just in a different file. So it's nice. It's a nice concept anyways. So you if you don't want to have to put another piece of software on all of your desktops or all of your servers or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yes.
Committee recognizes the fine gentleman in glasses.
Do you still get people that say, "Oh, I just can't. I can't have another agent on my machines because there's too much running on there already"?
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, how many agents are too many? And how many? What happens when we start having duplication like that?
Well, if you haven't noticed, pretty much everything that runs on Windows is some sort of an agent, right? You have 100 services running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are all like agents,
right,
so to speak.
As long as it's not killing your processing power and your memory and everything, I don't see why there's an issue.
Well, right. I can see a small issue. Now, if you're running, and we're going back to the aforementioned Amazon, if you have a ton of stuff in your environment in Amazon, every cycle that you use on some agent is one less cycle you have to use on your development environment, on your application, on serving web page.
Money.
That's money down the drain, exactly. And that's bandwidth down the drain, depending on, because you do have to pay for the bandwidth that is being moved around in your Amazon environment. So if you're...
I think it would be the same bandwidth either way, but it would definitely be less processing power and memory and stuff if you didn't have an additional agent.
Sure. But so my question is, so you have like things like endpoint security solutions, or if you're smart, you're using containers that don't have any kind of endpoint security solutions in them because, they don't last long enough to be, useful for infection purposes.
Yeah.
And if you're in an Amazon environment, would you use something like Windows Event Forwarding, or go for the more robust system SIEM type solution?
I guess it depends on what your end goal is, because we were talking, before we started recording, that WEF isn't always the best just because it misses events sometimes.
Okay.
Or it will randomly stop working.
I was going to be careful because I've heard that from several people. Right. And I wasn't going to mention that on the podcast because it might just be that they screwed up. Maybe it's
I don't know.
Unsubstantiated. But you say that you've had this happen to you firsthand.
Yeah. Like I set this up last week and I have, my VMware on my MacBook, and I had a domain controller, another server, and two desktops, right? And I'm like, oh, that's a nice little, small little lab that I can do this testing with, and you don't have to worry about any networking issues and nothing like that. My MacBook can handle 4 VMs with just normal amount of memory, CPU, whatever.
Right.
And it was all working fantastic. And then like randomly it just would stop collecting events on an endpoint.
Yeah.
I didn't change anything.
So I don't want to, pile on to the missing events thing, but while you guys were chatting back and forth amicably, I did do a search for Google missing events Windows event forwarder, and there's September 21st, 2017. Hello, I have a problem with some missing events on event source initiated subscription. Subscription was created on a standalone 2012 R2 box, configured by GPOs. Subscription works and security logs are collected from the client workstation, but after comparison of the local copy of logs, I see some small parts are missing. 2-second range around 10 events. The event collector, I found events missing related to the WinRM service. WS man operation identity failed, error code 2 . But all events keep fine. Missing events occurred hours ago. So people are trying to walk through setting up and adding port openings, TCP port 443. So it appears that this is a fairly widespread thing. So I would imagine.
Are there any errors in the Windows event forwarding log?
I don't see anything on that. Somebody just said, "Hi, Mr. Oleg. Please check to make sure the dependency services and when event log is started." And then they're asking you to repair the file system. This must be some kind of robot or something asking about that. But so it seems to me maybe the Windows event forwarder is not good for high speed events. Maybe there's some things that are missing, or maybe it's not robust enough to be used in a largely enterprise environment, and it's more like a small business type of tool where you're not logging thousands and thousands of things a second. So
and maybe if you're not, if you can afford that type of loss,
right,
in logging,
right.
Some people can't. Some people are 2 seconds of logs could be, the difference between an actual incident and not.
Right.
Right.
Right. Plus, if you're missing events and you need to, a lawyer, if you're trying to go to court for some either breach or insider, whatever, theft, and you're missing logs, the defendant lawyer is going to eat you alive.
Right. Yeah.
And for compliance, you're supposed to have them all.
Well, how do you know what is all?
Well, what happens if you get I don't know. Just depends.
Well, right? No, I mean, because let's say you tell the auditor, we have a robust logging regime. We don't log, every time a file is changed, or something that's innocuous. Mr. Betcher would be able to explain this better than I would. But.
Yeah, well, but there's some compliance standards or whatever, like all log in and log off events or anything like that. If you have an auditor come in and spot check, and they're like, all right, I want to see all of the logging events on this device. I don't know that there's an auditor that is that picky that they're going to double check your SIEM and the endpoint, but I guess the possibility is there. Right.
So, I found a blog post from Jessica Payne. She presented a session talking about Windows Event Forwarder. She says that when she engages in incident response, they find that the customer often doesn't have centralized logging. They're not monitoring their endpoints, just DCs or not member servers. Right. The spam logs with extra data, so that's overlogging. Not logging key events, logging rolls over too quickly, and with centralized logging still missing data, takes too long for admins to get reports. So that's fairly, that's a hot mess right there. I mean, it's hard because when you're doing incident response, you need to have all that data. You need to have it as quickly as possible because time is of the essence in many cases. And in most IT environments, you're not getting that. So, could you use event forwarding during the event as like a backup to your SIEM if you needed the logs now, or if it takes too long to get out of the information out of your SIEM?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe like a second set of eyes.
I would hope all the logs are in your SIEM and the SIEM would be faster than setting up WEF.
Yeah.
True.
The rest, she goes on to say it has some nice features. It works with SCOM, SCOM, or SIEM products as a complement. Increases overall visibility in the environment. Frequently, desktops aren't part of centralized monitoring due to licensing costs. Is that a true statement? Well, I mean, she obviously said it, and she's Jennifer Payne, so yes, it obviously is a true statement. But
licensing costs for what?
She says it's centralized monitoring due to licensing costs. I guess you don't want to put a Splunk agent on every box or log agent. It doesn't
increase your license, though.
Do companies that do log monitoring and log collation, do they give you like a volume license, like you can put this on all your desktops?
Yeah, because usually it's based on throughput that's coming into the SIEM. It's not based on
how many agents
how many endpoints. Like if you have 30 endpoints that barely log anything versus one that's logging the same amount, it would be the same price.
And all SIEM agents license the same way, like Splunk. It's not how many hosts, it's how many terabytes of logs you collect
all
a
the
day.
Ones that I know of are like that.
Wow, that's a nice racket. It's a nice racket.
Because really, that's what the MSSP is paying for in the end, anyways. Like they don't care what's on your environment as long as they're getting the same, the amount of logs or whatever.
Right.
They're the ones that have to store all of that data and process all of that data.
Right.
So who cares where it comes from?
Yeah. Well, here's something interesting. Okay, so Windows Event Forwarding puts it in native, as she says, EVTX, which is an XML log format. That would make it a lot easier to like grep through, wouldn't it? You could use like regular grepping tools or something like that instead of having to make Splunk queries. So I could see that in an incident response being a lot quicker than having to remember what Splunk or what SQL query to use, right?
Depends on the person. I'd rather search through Splunk than remember what grep to use.
Right. Oh, and Splunk is not a sponsor of the show. We don't endorse them, so just making sure we're
No, but it is one of my favorite tools. It's just really expensive.
It's really freaking expensive.
Crazy expensive. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it would be nice to get, maybe we should find a blog post about like somebody who's really used it, because I respect Miss Payne a lot, but she's she works for the company that makes it, obviously, so she's not going to speak ill of it. So I could definitely see you using the event forwarding for small organizations, or if you've got it, your system's really, locked down to where you're only logging what is necessary. You would definitely want to make sure that you're doing regular checks, because as we've heard with the missing events, which I didn't know about until we started talking about it, that, that you need to make sure you have a one-to-one copy for things like incident response.
Yeah, I mean, one of my friends said, I'm pretty sure he said like it's 8,000 to 10,000 endpoints that they use WEF on.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And, are there any other, okay, so I don't want to say this weirdly. So, so there's an event viewer, and there's another log forwarding engine other than just the event viewer on Windows, right? There's actually like a built-in log correlation. You can, when, or is this it? Is this something? Because
This goes in. You can see it in Event Viewer. Yeah, you can look at stuff in PowerShell, but Event Viewer is what you're going to look at the EVTX files with.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't administered a Windows box in forever and a day, so I'm trying to remember. We used a log forwarder back in around 2000, 2003, but I thought it was Windows based and it was a part of the OS. Maybe they've just renamed it and I didn't know. So
I mean, I've seen like OSEC used and Xlog. We just recently used WinLogBeats, Graylog.
Snare comes to mind.
I tried out probably all of the possible options last week, and now I have them all confused all in my head.
Yeah, I'm trying to
what does what correctly.
Okay, Snare was what we used back in the day. I thought it was part of the actual Windows, but Snare was a audit log data, and you could actually use Snare to forward to another SIEM. Okay, so I'm thinking of something else. Okay, my bad.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. We were looking to forward WEF logs to a SIEM.
Okay. So when you set up your SIEM, do you have to set up a schema based on the XML files, or does it just take everything and just drop it in? And
in this case, there's transforms, and really there is for Splunk too.
Okay.
You like, I can't remember what they're called because I never did that part. But you basically say, all right, well, this is what the file looks like, and if it starts with user : it's going to be the user field in the SIEM, or if it starts with, user _name : it's also the same field, so you can correlate that stuff, and it goes in all the same way into the SIEM.
So the SIEM has to parse it somehow, and you need to tell it how to parse it.
Yeah.
And make sense of it.
Okay. Oh, it's the Palantir. Okay. So there's other organizations. I was actually just looking for more Windows event forwarding stuff. There's companies like Palantir, which is a huge data warehousing type company that does all kinds of data collection. And they have a guidance on Windows event forwarding. I guess I need to put that link in the show notes now for that. So there were some questions I asked of our people before the show in our Slack channel about, things that they would like to ask us about WEF. And one of the questions was, any GPOs involved? Of course, yes, it can be used. It can be deployed with GPOs. Can it be done on a server-by-server basis? I think that was already answered. Yes, that it can be done on a server-by-server basis. Can an attacker simply disable the service once initial access is achieved?
They can. You should alert on that, though.
Okay, so when they disable the service, the log file logs it, but it wouldn't necessarily get sent to the SIEM then, right?
Yeah, so you can log on if the event log was cleared.
Right.
And then you can also set up a log saying, oh, I haven't seen logs from this device, but I can still ping it.
Right.
Like you should set up something like that,
right?
Especially if it's a DC or anything like that.
They may need elevated privileges in order to turn the log off,
like local admin.
So the way they got onto the box potentially, and the elevation of privileges, if that was the case, would have been logged and would be in the SIEM already. The very last event would be to disable the service.
Okay. That would be the last
probably gasp. Would be logged, would be forwarded, and then the service would stop, and you wouldn't get any more events in your SIEM, but you'd still have local logs.
Yeah, but the last thing you would see is there's been a sig term for the service on the SIEM, and then you wouldn't see anything after that point, or would you just see what was, because I'm thinking of like a race condition kind of thing. If you shut off the service, do you get the fact that the service was shut off sent to the SIEM, or does the service get shut off and everything is now blocked or shut off from that point and everything's in the log
I think
file?
there are several logs related to shutting off a service, and you may get the first one but not any subsequent ones.
Right.
I'd have to check. I'd have to double check.
Okay. So director of InfoSec, one of our fine slackers, had asked the pros and cons of feeding the WEF output to a MapReduce system, and she says that MapReduce is basically a big data for long-term storage, lowering the signal-to-noise ratio, and she's just not sure what fidelity she's going to lose there versus throwing more storage at her SIM. So I don't know if any of you have used MapReduce at all.
Nope.
Well, I'll have to ask her some more questions about that.
I haven't, but I can see the point of a data warehouse, right? And I think that's what it is.
A data warehouse is just a larger SIM, basically. Like it's like SIM.
Or not even a SIM, just log aggregation.
It's just log aggregation. Okay.
I think if you take a look at what logs you're actually forwarding and make sure you're forwarding the important ones, and you probably don't need anything else to forward them directly to your data warehouse.
Okay.
They can go from the endpoints to the SIM and then from the SIM to the data warehouse.
Oh,
they don't have to go directly from the endpoints to the data warehouse.
Well, what do you need a data warehouse for if you have a SIM? Does the data warehouse take all your various SIMs and all your various log correlation systems and go, okay, I only want what's important from your SIM for databasing and stuff?
You may not need certain logs to exceed, for example, 90 days. Right. But you want to have stuff in order to go way back, like maybe logins, right? So you can go back a year, Bob logged in here, or maybe application logs.
Or if you want something that you want to create a report on, but your storage for your SIM is faster and more expensive, so you want to send it somewhere else that you can maybe run like a monthly report on, and you don't have to worry about it being on, the fastest storage.
Right. Okay.
Maybe. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing.
Yeah, it all depends on what you're trying to get out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would caution not to send too much data, not to send data that's not really important.
Right.
Have it locally, and maybe in case you happen to need it. But until you find a situation where you absolutely need it, I would hesitate to, like, DNS logs locally. That's just a ton of data.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I'm scrolling up through
DNS logs anywhere is a ton of data.
Yeah, especially if you don't have ad blockers. Can you imagine?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely on a desktop. I was scrolling up through our hallway con on our Slack because that's where I put the question first. I'm having to scroll through pictures of 80s TV star Jan Michael Vincent is topless. I don't know why that is, but that's there.
What?
I don't know.
Is it
Director of InfoSec?
All I see is like Bruce Willis.
Well, it's above Bruce Willis. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just trying to get all the questions. So somebody else asked, not sure if they've used it, but WEF versus WinLogBeat versus NXLog. Ms.Berlin, you said you had some knowledge about all this?
Yeah. So in the case that I was doing, did it say WEF versus WinLogBeats?
Yeah, versus NXLog.
Okay. So in my case, we needed, so my customer already had WEF, a WEF environment set up, right? But they wanted those logs to now forward to the SIM. Mm-hmm. So you can't just say, I want to send these WEF logs to the SIM. You have to have an agent or something on that box.
Okay.
So on the collector, where all the event logs actually end up, at first I was going to try and use NXLog, but turns out, I don't know at what point this happened, but in their community edition, it doesn't have the correct files to be able to forward WEF logs. Like it'll do everything else on that box if it's the agent on there, but it won't do the WEF logs unless you pay for it.
Okay.
So we ended up going with WinLogBeats.
Okay.
Because it kind of just does the same thing. There was also a really cool tool that I tried to convince them to use that SolarWinds has, because it was way easier to set up, because we wanted it like in syslog format.
Right.
And with WinLog beats, to get it in the format we also needed Logstash to do like a transform.
Yeah.
So it was an additional step. But this this tool from SolarWinds was super simple. It was like a two button setup. It was all a GUI. It just opened it up and said, "Oh, look, here's everything that is listed in your event viewer. Which ones do you want us to forward and where?"
Right.
And I thought that was probably the easiest way that I've ever seen that you can forward events to.
But it's SolarWinds, so I'm assuming it wasn't free.
SolarWinds, it is a free tool.
Oh.
It's just business reasons why we didn't use that one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's free, and they try to get you to buy the pro version, which I think is like what, 4,000.
Probably super
That's
expensive.
not bad considering it's a log tool. So cool. All right. So one of the last things. So need a config. Get some examples here for NXLog, WinLog beat, file beat, Windows logging service, and other stuff. Oh, well, there's an ad there. I didn't finish looking at the URL. So yes, why don't you tell us a little bit about the URL there, Mr. Betcher?
Okay, so Michael has done a lot of research on the different log forwarding tools, and he's got some sample configs for these types. WinLog beat is in there, NXLog, FileBeat. There's also Windows logging service, which is really good. It's an alternative to the Splunk forwarder.
Okay.
So if you look at that.
Wait,
there are configs out there.
I'm sorry. You said Windows logging service and...
Yep.
Okay, so how's that different from Windows event forwarder?
Windows logging service is different. It was created by a guy who worked for the government, and the government won't install certain software that they can't actually do a code audit on.
Right.
So if the company says, well, this is proprietary, we can't give out the code, then they say, okay, well, we can't buy your product.
Okay.
Right? So Jason McCord created this tool, and it's available.
Okay,
so
I thought this was
service.
I thought this was another thing that came with Windows, but it's a third party tool.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Does anybody have any other thoughts or suggestions about WEF? Using it. There's some pros and cons. It does tend to, apparently, to lose some events, but my question is, are the events that it loses important? And if they're not important, is it okay to take the risk of using it?
It all depends.
And
personally, I don't think I could live with myself if there may be some events that are not going to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the guarantee of that. If something is logged, then it's going to end up in the SIEM. I'm going to know it. It's 100% guaranteed. I'm not going to have to go, well, I searched for that and it's not there, but maybe it's stored locally. It just didn't get forward. I don't want to have to try and ask myself those questions.
Let me ask you something. All right. So you're saying that WEF, is missing events. When was the last time you actually checked the veracity of the local logs versus your SIEM logs?
Is that
with your existing solution, because maybe it's missing events that you didn't know you were missing.
I never had to. Wait,
I don't have access.
But I'm hearing a lot of.
You don't even
all I'm hearing is a lot of excuses. I'm not hearing hearing a lot of quitter talk here. So you guys have never
would you even do that other than spot checking?
Well, maybe you should spot check.
It's two completely different formats, and I guess you could grep through the EVTX, but then you also have to it's not like you could do a diff.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So it appears that WEF is not alone in missing events. I'm seeing a company called McAfee here with Redundant Enterprise Security Manager is missing events from May 16, 2016. I'm seeing, let me see. McAfee support community. I'm seeing Cisco IPS data source missing in SIEM events. So maybe WEF isn't the only WEF or, logging system that's missing events. It's just the one that you guys know of. So maybe you people out there that are, SIEM analysts and, making sure everything's being logged, maybe you're missing events that you don't know. Maybe you should, get with your SIEM folks and go, maybe we need to do a spot check. That could be very helpful.
That is a really good idea.
What are you missing? So there's some definite hygiene right there. Maybe you should go in tomorrow and go, yeah, exactly. Should this work? What am I missing? SIEM policy. Yeah. So, maybe you'll find out you actually have missed something that you didn't realize you had. And maybe it's just good to go.
I guess you could go based on count.
Really?
Like events coming from a specific device. Say you get all your security and system events from a Windows device.
Right.
Look from, noon to midnight on a day and see if the numbers match up on total events.
Okay.
Because that would give you a good idea.
Right. I'm actually doing a Google search for missing events Splunk and seeing what we come up with. I'm not trying to be mean against Splunk, but it's missing events topics, Splunk answers, missing of events and flooding of data in heavy forwarder, how to search losing events as number of events increase, how to troubleshoot why I'm missing events in my search events, answers.splunk.com. Yeah, okay. So there's some basic hygiene that blue teamers need to do. You need to find out if your SIEM's missing anything. And the problem is, it's going to be a nightmare to look through that, especially if you're getting several thousand events, So there you go. So I apologize to, bagging on WEF because it appears that every SIEM user,
sucks.
every SIEM product is missing events at some point or another. So, yeah. Cool. Well, now I feel better because, if I'd have told my wife about that shit, she'd probably gotten me. So, anyway.
I'm not so sure.
What's that?
But that these forwarders are missing events.
You think it might be some layer 8 issues?
No. Huh?
You think it might be layer 8 issues?
It could be. Could be layer 8. That tends to sneak up. Remember that one guy we interviewed and there were 8 layers?
Right.
I didn't know that. So
there
he told me something I didn't know.
Right.
There are.
Anyway. So yes, maybe go in tomorrow and talk to your SIEM folks and find out if there's a way you can easily check, versus the locals, maybe you can, you can send your Splunk forwarder to more than one place on your systems. So maybe you can pair that off and, check a DC or check a workstation on a smaller SIEM or a smaller version of the Splunk. And then, maybe do a comparison 1-for-1 to see if you're missing anything. That way you're not, trying to sift through thousands of events. So that may be something. Anyway. I don't have anything else. I do want to have Ms.Berlin mention some of the things that are going on at Derby. She's going to be a very busy lady there. So
yeah, I've been a really busy lady. Like as soon as I'm done with work, I've been working all night on this mental health stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So yeah, they gave us Derbycon gave us a URL, so you can go to derbycon.com/wellness, and it takes you my janky little Google Doc.
Nice.
As opposed to a website.
Yep.
But I think that the couple things that I'm super, super excited about is I just paid for the chair massages.
Cool.
So Saturday from 9 to 5, we will have 4 massage therapists there.
Oh. I thought I didn't know why you were wanting massage chairs all day.
No,
that's weird, but okay.
Yeah. Chair massages from 9 to 5 and first come, first serve.
Yep.
Just show up and it's like, they said 10 to 15 minutes per person. depending on if there's a line or whatever.
Cool.
And then the other thing I'm really excited about is this lady named Susan. She is a yoga instructor, and she's also going to Derby, so she's an InfoSec.
Cool.
And she has something like 700 hours of yoga under her belt. And she's going to be leading yoga and meditation both Friday and Saturday morning for an hour.
Oh, nice.
From 8 to 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that. And then Catherine Smith is going to do some chair yoga. So for the people that sit in chairs all day and, different stretches and stuff that you can do in your chair. That's
important. I'll tell you, because my office chair, I've got some back issues, and if you don't, if you're sitting all day, sometimes having a standing desk is just helpful, but I can't stand at my desk all day with my standing desk, so I do have a chair that I sit down with. Moving around just is helpful, especially if you're sitting here and popping shells all day. It does take a toll on your body.
And for the chair one, it's obviously just going to be in the room, and you grab a chair and you pull up and do whatever.
Cool.
For the yoga in the morning, I'm going to be providing 20 yoga mats. I don't know if there will be 20 people coming or if there will be more than that.
Yeah.
So if you don't have one, I'll have them for you.
Cool.
And just a whole bunch of other stuff. The schedule is almost full. Wow. We have Jason Street said he's going to lead a discussion. Nice. And we just have a large amount of people helping, and I'm super happy with all the volunteers and everything.
Yep.
It's going to be fantastic.
Take some time off from the overly technical stuff, and clear your calendar to go hear Jay Street talk, because I saw his keynote at, I forget which one it was, GurCon or something. It's on YouTube, but it was one of them ones. It was you need to listen to it, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry, and he was talking about issues in the industry, but it made me uncomfortable.
From SkyDogCon.
Which one?
That was from SkyDogCon.
SkyDogCon, yes, that's what it was. Yeah, I was uncomfortable listening to it, but it was definitely something that should be heard or should be listened to. I'm sure he's not talking about what he did at SkyDogCon, but he's gone through a few things in his life, and you definitely want to clear your calendar if you can get to hear him speak. And
a lot of these things are just discussion groups. I had to split it out in between people that are actually talking and giving a presentation, and the discussion groups where it's really just you show up and there's kind of a moderator that might have handouts or might just have discussion points to talk about.
Yep.
They kind of start off with why they wanted to lead the discussion group, and there's probably 10 of those, I think.
Nice.
And I have a crap ton of stuff. I keep on getting everything that I ordered from Amazon. I think my UPS and postal guy probably hate me at this point.
It's okay. It's all right. So, that's awesome. I know Mr. Betcher and Mr. Goff got us a table this year, which is awesome. We'll be sitting at it, kind of helping discuss, some of the LogMD stuff. And there'll be we'll definitely be talking about the LogMD stuff. But we'll also be there for some of the podcast stuff as well. If you want to come by and say, hey, I'm going to be a booth person. I'm going to have more knowledge, I think, about LogMD than I would expect to have, because I want to be able to speak intelligently to it if somebody asks questions. So, is there anything else, Mr. Betcher, you'd like to mention about Derbycon before we go?
Yeah, Amanda, I noticed you're going to have a fidget table.
A what?
Yeah.
A what now?
That's cool. Now, we're going to bring some LogMD little fidget things as well. So
sweet. So, we can put some of those at the table.
Yeah,
I got a whole bunch of different, not just fidget cubes, but just
I got
putty and sand and Zen gardens and just everything that I could find that they sold on Amazon that you could possibly fidget with.
You're talking stuff for tactile sensations.
Yeah. And then I have another table that's going to be adult coloring books. And what else do I have? Oh, a couple of the things that are kind of expensive that you don't know if you want to spend the money on, but you might want to try them. So there's like I think it's like the vitamin D happy lights that like simulate sunlight.
Okay.
They like help against seasonal depression.
Right.
Right. Yep. And then weighted blankets. Like I bought a weighted blanket, which I hear can help people like during anxiety attacks and depression.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, stuff like that you don't know if you want to buy or not, you can come and try it out.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It might, all these things are very interesting. If you've never tried yoga before, that might be helpful to learn how to try, especially if you're trying to find something that's, is it low impact?
Oh yeah, totally. So, and it's totally going to be like beginner's yoga too. So if you can't stand on one foot, don't worry about it. Just like come and I found that every yoga thing that I've ever done, it's just like do whatever works for you. And there's always like different things that you can do if you're not as flexible or if you have an injury or anything like that. Like just come to it. Like you should learn either way. And
there's other different types. And the thing is though, you may get sweaty, so you'll want to go and take a shower afterwards.
Exactly.
So please go take a shower afterwards. If you are planning on doing that stuff, plan on having to go take a shower. So if you're in the Marriott or the Omni or the Hilton, that's going to be kind of compulsory.
Wear some comfy clothes.
Wear something stretchy. Don't try to come in a mini skirt and try to do yoga. Nobody wants to see that. Oh wait. Or utilikilt, Zach. Don't try to do
Come on. If he shows up to yoga in a utilikilt, you're in trouble.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to make sure he shows up. Anyway. So, all right. Well, holy cow. We're way over on our time. So, Ms. Berlin, Mr. Betcher, I'm going to start with Ms. Berlin. How would people get a hold of you if they wanted to talk about things at Derbycon or, anything else in particular about WEF or logging?
So on Twitter at InfoSister, INFOSYSTIR.
Right on. Mr. Betcher, same thing.
Yeah, if you don't know what logs are important, like you listen to this conversation and you don't know what you should be forwarding, well, I wrote a tool that can help you with that. It basically tells you how to configure your Windows logs and what logs are important as far as catching the bad guys, right?
Right.
So it's free. It's on log-md.com. Check it out.
Right on. And you're at BetcherPwned on Twitter.
Yes, I am.
BOETTCHERPWNED. You can follow the podcast at Brakesec, BRAKESEC. You can follow me at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. Had a ton of new followers to the Brakesec podcast. If you are here because you were doing the Derbycon thing, we still have the charity auction, which is going to happen on the 7th of September at I forget. I'll have to look at last week's notes, but we'll have some more announcements on Twitter about that and on our Slack channel, which is. You can, join us on our Slack if you'd like by sending us a DM to Brakesec, or you can email bds.podcast@gmail.com. And we'll be doing it on the Slack like we did last year. We'll just set up a special channel. Bids will happen in there. Opening bid will be $175, which is the face value of the ticket. Bid increments will be in $25 increments, and whoever is the last bidder after like 6:00 p.m. Pacific on that night will get the ticket. If you are still looking for a ticket and you want to donate to a good cause, which is the Rural Technology Fund, which is Chris Sanders' organization, helping disadvantaged organizations and schools get technology. So $175 is going to give them a lot of cash to work with. So looking forward to helping him out with that. And as a matter of fact, I will probably match up to $250 if it gets that high. So I will also donate another $250, up to $250 if that happens. So that's what's going to happen. Anyway, so follow us on iTunes, our Apple Podcasts, leave feedback. That helps us get discovered by more people. There's still people out there, surprisingly, who've never heard of us. I know. Weird, huh?
What?
I know. So we're on Spotify, www.brakingsecurity.com, BRAKING security, and you can find out where we're at all over in our show notes. We're in Spotify, TuneIn Radio app, iHeartRadio. There's pretty much nowhere you can't find us. And also, thank you to our patrons. We appreciate you. The money you give us every month goes to hosting and equipment upgrades, and allows us to, do things to make the podcast better for you. So we appreciate you helping out. Derbycon's our Super Bowl. Seriously, I know people are probably like, "Oh my God, I wish you'd stop talking about Derbycon." This is really like our Super Bowl. That's our one time a year where we get to do stuff. I don't get to go to a ton of conferences, so, and I know Mr. Betcher doesn't either. So Ms.Berlin, she's Miss Popular. Everywhere. We're just happy to be basking in the glow of Berlining down security.
I guess I'm keynoting at Three Rivers InfoSec, I think it's called.
Three Rivers InfoSec. Pittsburgh?
Yes.
I knew that because Three Rivers Stadium used to be where they used to play. The Steelers used to play at Three Rivers Stadium.
Yes. So I'm speaking there.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
Sometime in October.
Wow. Boy, you're just going right from Derby to keynoting somewhere else. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to email us or hit us up on Twitter. So that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Have a great week. Hope to have a very important speaker and very awesome author next week.
Woo!
I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to say anything.
You already jinxed it.
I'm on the podcast every week. What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness. Wowzers. All right. Yeah. So, okay. Yes, there's the book.
We'll sign this book.
Thank you. Betcher's got the book. Defensive Security Handbook. Go buy it in O'Reilly. So, have a great week. Be nice to one another. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we're done. Oh my goodness with you people. Oh, I'm already on the show. Oh, it's Arthur. I'm an author. That's just despicable.
How long did we go? That was a good conversation.
Yeah, and I
liked that one.
We went roughly
over an hour.
Over an hour. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and I didn't actually know about the additional things, but yeah, it seems like everybody's got issues with missing events. So I mean, maybe that's a systemic thing. Maybe people don't realize that they're missing things, and that could hurt them in the long run if they're doing.
I can't believe a customer's never asked.
Well, they don't know to ask. It's one of them unknown unknowns.
Are you sure you're getting all of our logs? Like, how do you know you're not missing any?
Well, we had Kevin Johnson and Nick Selby on during that whole MSSP debacle. Remember the people completely got owned and they went to their...
That was before me, I think.
They went to their MSSP and they didn't have anything. And so, companies don't
because
ask.
They weren't even sniffing the right traffic.
Right. Yep. So, that goes back to customers asking their MSSP for, what are they logging? Are they logging things?
We have a problem with that sometimes. Like, our customers will get pissed because we don't see something, but they oh, you never told us you had this network.
Right.
Like, how are we supposed to know that you need an IPS there if we didn't even know the network was there?
Right. That happens.